If I had to find my first sponsor today, this would be my exact plan to find and land that advertiser in 30 days. We're going to go over step-by-step instructions from day 1 to day 30. We've worked with over 100 sponsors to land contracts for our clients, so this is a topic that I'm very familiar with. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what you need to do each day. I'll give you templates to use to create your own pitch breakdown, a cold outreach system I use every day, and advice on negotiating the best deal for you. Welcome to Podcast Support, the show where we tackle the questions every podcaster needs answered to grow a successful show. Whether you're just starting out or scaling an existing audience, we break down the roadblocks, share practical strategies, and give you step-by-step answers so you can spend less time guessing and more time building the podcast you want.
Thank you for contacting Podcast Support.
Now, starting on day 1, I would gather all the useful data I can about my show. The things that I want to focus on are downloads and views for the last 10 episodes, audience breakdown, that's gender, age, and geographic location, and then other useful metrics that show a growing and thriving channel. These could be things like engagement score, comments, likes, and shares. So what you want to do is that you're going to use all of this data to create a great pitch deck. So it's really important to make sure that you have that data in hand, which means that if you're, earlier in your development and maybe you're not at the stage right now where you're looking for those sponsors, you want to be collecting that data. And so it's really important to be thinking about that right now as soon as possible because it's going to come in handy. Now, a quick note is that if you have less than 10,000 followers on your social platform of choice or less than 3,000 podcast downloads per episode per month, you are probably early to the sponsorship game. So it doesn't mean that there isn't useful information in this video, but I would hold off on reaching out to sponsors until you have a larger regular following. This is for two different reasons. Number one, it's because sponsors probably won't be interested. And then second, it's because advertisements at that stage can really hurt your viewership numbers. Ads are always risky because they give the audience a time where they are likely to drop off. Once we've collected that data, we're going to use that data to create a rough draft of your 2-page pitch. So starting day 2, we're going to start building out that pitch deck. Now, what's really convenient for you is that I've actually gone and created a 2-page breakdown myself, a template that you can utilize. So you can download that in the description down below. The reason that it's only 2 pages, I know you might think, well, how can I really give all of the information about my show for a sponsor to make the best judgment and to see, the value that I can bring to them? Well, the reality is that no one really wants to read more than 2 pages, especially when you're an unknown commodity. So it's really important to make that information concise and to the point. So with that being said, here's what you need to include in the pitch deck. First and foremost, you need to show the downloads and views of your podcast. And you need to put this right underneath the podcast name and tagline. You need to put this front and center because especially when you're a show that they haven't heard of, they need to know immediately what your value is to them. We'll get to what their value is to you later on, but right now you need to make sure it's clear that, hey, I have this many downloads, I know who I am, and I know my value so that they can immediately go, hey, this person's legit, and they do have an audience that I could actually go and try to work with. So put that downloads and views right up front. Then after that, you put your show description. This is just to provide further understanding of what your show is about so that they can start to get an idea of who you are and how you might fit with their product or service. Then right under that, we've got the audience description. So this is really important. It's the reason it's on the first page is because, it is one of those things that they're going to be looking for, which is, hey, is this an audience that we're trying to get to right now or an audience that we could expand within? Or is it an audience that, they're not really interested in? It's going to help them make their decision. And so put that in there and you've got your demographics and psychographics there too that you want to fill out. That all comes from the data that you've been able to gather. And you might be wondering, okay, well, how do I figure out those psychographics? Well, luckily, it used to be a lot harder, but luckily we now all have a relatively inexpensive, if not free research tool called ChatGPT. So what you could do is go to ChatGPT, enter in all the data that you have about your show, information about your audience, information about what the show's about, give all of that information to ChatGPT, and it will come out with psychographic ideas for you. You can look through those, figure out which ones actually make sense for your audience, and then go and plug those in. So that's a really easy way to take care of that part of the process. Then the second page. On that second page, you want to be providing helpful statistics. Now, this is important. You want to be also making sure that you're choosing the ones that put you in the best light. So I always think it's important to really be thinking about how you're framing this information. And so you're at the early stages, and so you want to get a sponsor who's willing to invest in you at that early stage. So that's why it's labeled as a channel that's growing, because it tells the sponsor that you know who you are and that you're still focused on growth while illustrating where that growth is coming from. So you want to present yourself as a podcast worth investing in for the long term. The numbers that I find most helpful are normally engagement, subscriber growth month over month, and shares. But there are a lot of options that you could try out. Now, finally, we have the table of the 10 episode sample. I really suggest that these are the most recent 10 episodes, as it'll feel the most relevant to the sponsor themselves, because they get a snapshot of where you're at right now in the moment. And since you're only doing this for, what you're going to be doing it for is about 10 days, well, then really it's okay, and it's worth that effort to make sure that it's the most up-to-date information. So why is this important? Well, it shows a track record. So you're a newer podcast. You need to be able to show that, you don't have just one outlier episode. You have a consistent return on your episodes and a consistent growth that you're able to see. So right now, you want to clearly communicate with sponsors on who you are and where you're going. One question is, if you have a down episode, should you leave that out, or should you just keep it in there and let it be known that, hey, yeah, I had an episode that, underperformed? My personal opinion is leave it in. Sponsors understand where you're at within your growth, and it's okay to have an underperforming episode. If you have multiple underperforming episodes, well, then you're probably not ready for this stage. You need to figure out why you're having episodes that are underperforming. But if you just have one episode, look, that's the state of the game. And that's what every sponsor understands, is that they're going to be making an investment in you, and there's some risk involved in that. It's not always going to be everybody gets the exact same number. If it were, that would be nice, but also it would mean that we didn't have a growing platform. So it's totally okay to leave in an underperforming episode. It makes you feel more trustworthy, and it's really important at this stage to come across as trustworthy, as somebody who's worth it to be a partner with. So throughout the rest of week 1, I would be revising and finalizing this pitch deck. I would be having 3 to 5 of my friends proofreading it to make sure that everything's working right, that the story that I'm wanting to tell is being told. And so I'd rework and finalize it. Then at the start of week 2, we want to be collecting a list of possible sponsors that are a great fit for your niche. Now, this is really important, is that you need to be making sure that it's a product fit for you. So the 2 ways that I find to find great advertisers is, number 1, ask your audience what products or services they have been loving. They will tell you, if you ask, what types of things that they really like in their lives and that really help them. And so that's a really easy way, because one of the things that I always like to talk about is, if you have an audience, let's say, for example, that they're really into home decor, well, then you ask them, okay, well, what types of lighting do you like? And they give you examples of, like, hey, I really like Hue bulbs, or I really like these IKEA ones, or whatever. Then you can go, hey, they really like those. I'll reach out to this sponsor and I'll say, hey, I've got people who really love your products, and I'd love to, build and continue to grow that fandom of your products with my audience. And they're really likely to say, hey, that's awesome. Here, let's get you a 20% off code, or let's work together in some way to get a giveaway put together. By having that knowledge of who your audience really likes, you're able to go to the sponsor with a lot more information. The other way is looking at products or services that you love and that you think your audience would enjoy. So this is just the reverse of it, which is what things in your life are you utilizing? So for me, I always tell people I'm just a huge Patagonia fan. I like hiking. I like their clothing. If they want to sponsor me right now, let's do it. Patagonia, what are you waiting for? So those are the two ways. Now, if you need assistance, you can always give ChatGPT information about your podcast and ask it to give you suggestions of products or services you could work with. What I would do first, though, is then go and check out those products and services and really make sure that there's something that you would want to advertise for. Because especially right now, I mean, at any stage, I think it's really important that you, as the primary driver of your podcast, are able to speak candidly about the benefits and the negatives and all of the things, the reasons that you love a sponsor. If you don't really feel that, your audience is going to know, and if they end up purchasing it and they don't like it, which if you don't like it, they're probably not going to like it, well, then you just wasted their money and you burnt their trust. So it's a really risky venture to go and just take sponsors who you don't truly believe in. All right, so after you found those sponsors, that's probably going to take you a day or two to create a full list of those sponsors. Now it's time to research those businesses and find the right people at those companies who you want to be speaking to about partnering. Now, these are the roles that I often look for when I'm looking to, if I don't already have a relationship with a sponsor and I want to build one. So the roles that I'm looking at are marketing director, assistant marketing director, media consultant, and media planner. These are often the people who are in charge of ad selling, ad buying. And one thing I want to mention is that you can reach out to multiple people in the business. I know sometimes it'll feel a little nerve-wracking to say, oh, well, I'm reaching out to this person, so will they feel like I'm skeezy or weird if I'm reaching out to this person? The reality is that you want to get on somebody's radar, and one person may be way less likely to notice your outreach versus another person. So do not worry if you find a marketing director and you also find a media planner. Reach out to both of them because it gives you better odds of actually getting to somebody. A lot of this comes down to being a numbers game when we get to the actual cold outreach side of things. So it's okay to find multiple people within a business. Put them both down and we'll reach out to them. Another thing that you can do in addition to the actual businesses themselves is that you can reach out to podcast advertising agencies. These are companies like Silk Road or Podscale or PodSearch. There's a lot of pods, but these are really great resources out there for you. You want to be getting to know them. You want to be getting on their radar because they have a lot of businesses that they're handling that ad buying for. So within these agencies, these are the types of people that you want to look out for. You want to look out for account managers, assistant account managers, media consultants, and media planners. And again, you can totally reach out to multiple people within an agency. Oftentimes, we will actually have multiple contacts at an individual agency. And the reason is that the way that these account managers work is that they have 3 to 5 businesses that they are in charge of. And so they're not in charge of the whole list that the company has. It might be that you have somebody named Rachel who handles all of the different things within sleeping products and cabinetry. I don't know, Rachel's got varied interests. And then you have somebody named Kirk and he's in charge of all of the things within home decor that's not cabinetry and space products. And so you want to make sure that you have multiple contacts there because they might have different fits that work for your show. Now, after you've done all of that research, you want to create a list of, and I know this is a big number, but you need to aim big with this. You're going to create a list of 100 people. Now, here's the breakdown. 60 of those people should be from businesses and 40 should be from agencies. And I know what you're saying, 100 people, that's a lot of work that I've got to do. Do you want the money or not? Because That's the reality of it, is that you got to put in some effort here. There's no easy way to just stumble into a sponsor. I mean, you'll hear stories, but that's not going to be the general person. The way that you're going to make or break your show is by putting in that effort, finding those right sponsors. And the way that you do that is by working with the system and working this system that I'm giving you here. This really will lead to you finding great sponsors that you want to work with for years to come. So if you are struggling to find those people within the company through standard LinkedIn searches or Google searches, here's one secret for you. You can get 1 month of free LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Now, if you have to go to that second month, it's $100. So you got to figure out whether that's worth it for you. But you totally can get a free month of Sales Navigator. And if you don't know what Sales Navigator is, it's just the easiest way to put in a full search of who the type of a type of person you're looking for. So you can literally search for, okay, I want account managers within the podcasting space. And you will find account managers in the podcasting space. And then you can go through and you can specifically look for businesses that you want to look at. So you could say, hey, well, who's the account manager at Pringles? You'll search that and then you find that person and then you can reach out to them. So it's really worth it and it'll speed up your workflow. Cannot recommend doing that enough. But either way, for the list of these people, here's the things that you need to find for them. You need to find an email, a LinkedIn account, and a primary social media account. Email is often the hardest. There are, services that you can sign up for free that say that they'll get you the email. I've used them before and oftentimes they don't work, but hey, every once in a while they totally do work. So if you can't find that, then I do recommend finding like a general email account and then emailing there. You'll be surprised how often you actually do find somebody willing to help you get to the right person. So I would still recommend going with like a general business email if that's all you can find. Then for primary social account, just go and look at which one they have posted on most recently. So that could be TikTok, that could be Instagram, that could be X, it could be any of those. Just make sure that you go and look at which one they're actually utilizing, because that's where you want to reach out to them. It's not that helpful if they haven't used it in a month. So this research is probably going to take up the rest of your week, but that's a good amount of time. That's 5 to 7 days that you're able to really work on this and gather all of this information together. And that will bring us to day 15, which means that you're halfway through the month. So at the start of week 3, we have all of that information and now we're going to put it to work. What you are going to do is you are going to reach out to each contact through these 3 different methods of LinkedIn, social media, and email. Now, it's a good amount of work. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I want to be completely transparent. The way that you make this work for you is by putting in the work. So what you're going to do is that you're going to create a template communication for each of these forms of outreach. And the nice thing is that like that breakdown that I created, I actually created a Notion dashboard for you. If you're not familiar with Notion, it's pretty easy to use and you can use it for this and then you can get it for free and just use this. So I created this system so that you can use it. It's the podcast support 5-touch sponsor campaign. And all you have to do is fill out the templates inside of it and then you're ready to go. So as you can see on it, you have 2 weeks broken down. So during week 1, you're going to be reaching out to 30 contacts. And the way that you're going to be doing that is that on Monday, you're going to send them a LinkedIn Connect message. On Tuesday, you're going to send a social media message. And then on Thursday, you're going to outreach with an email. And then on the second week, on Tuesday, you're going to send over a follow-up email. And then on Thursday, you're going to send over a LinkedIn message. And when you look through that Notion dashboard, you can see, I have templates for each of those. So it's really easy. All you have to do is fill in the information where there's parentheses for you. And one thing to keep in mind is that on that second week, you're going to reach out to 30 more contacts. So it really is where, you're going to be reaching out to people and that first week will be all right. Then that second week is going to be a little bit more challenging because you've got, you're not only sending out social media messages on Tuesday, you're also sending out more emails. So you want to be making sure that you're going through and you're doing 30 contacts and then you're adding another 30 contacts, because that flow is going to really help you find sponsors. Now, more than likely, you're actually going to get a response within that first week. So that brings us to the really exciting thing, which is when you get a response that says, hey, okay, yeah, I'm interested. What you need to do is you need to go straight for a meeting. And in your messages, you offer up times that you could meet. Sometimes people will say, yeah, well, those times don't work for me. Here's what you should do. Create a free Calendly. You get one free meeting that you can set up and utilize that for a sponsorship meeting. Calendly is, we're also not sponsored by Calendly. Man, these guys, they're getting free shout outs, but genuinely it's because I believe in it. Calendly is like the easiest way to get somebody to actually go and schedule. It's so much easier than constantly sending, hey, how does this time work? How does this time work? That's how the trail goes cold. Because remember this, the more you have to talk to somebody, the more opportunities there are for them to stop responding. In this day and age, ghosting is just a natural thing. It's something that you're going to have to get over because you're going to hear it, or you're not going to hear anything. You're going to hear nothing constantly. But make sure that you have a Calendly set up where they can just go, you just say, hey, perfect, here's my Calendly, lock down a time. And then they'll go ahead and they'll normally do it. And so once you get that meeting booked, then what I really recommend is that it's always a video call. I do not recommend hopping on the phone with somebody. Hopping on the phone is just, at this point, unnatural. We're all used to talking face to face, and you want to be building up that personal relationship. And so make sure that you're using a video call. It's just way more personal. What do you need to discuss during this call? Hey, I told you, we're getting down nitty gritty on this. Here are the 3 things that you need to be ready to talk about. Number 1, downloads and views. It's just the most important thing. At every stage, you need to remind them, hey, I'm legit. I have this many downloads and I have this many views. Then you need to talk about your audience engagement. You need to be talking about ways that you've already been driving them towards, a community channel or comments that you've been given, ways that you've talked to them about. Talk to your audience about the sponsorship that you're talking with this sponsor about. Any of those types of things are really, really helpful. And you also want to be able to give them what your engagement score is. If your engagement score isn't that low, well, it's time to really boost up that engagement score. And the final thing is CPM. If you're not familiar, CPM is cost per mil, and this is just a standard formula that advertisers use to really evaluate what the value of your audience reach is. And so here's a standard CPM. It's normally $18 to $25 for a 30-second ad, or $25 to $40 for a 60-second ad. And this can totally fluctuate based on the value of your audience to your advertiser. So it's all about a negotiation, which is why that it's so important to make sure that the sponsor is a great fit for your audience. So going into the meeting, you should have an idea of what CPM you want and what you would feel comfortable lowering and raising that CPM to. Always be ready to ask for more money if the opportunity arises. So once you've talked about these topics, be ready for the test. The test is an opportunity for both sides to determine whether or not the sponsorship is a good fit. And this is something that you don't have to deal with later on, since you'll have numbers to back up the performance of your sponsorship deals. But in the early stages, sponsors will want to test a couple of spots on your podcast to determine whether the risk is worth the reward. Now, what I'll say is that I don't actually think tests are very valuable to either side, really, but I think it's actually more valuable to you than to the sponsor. See, for sponsors, they actually don't get that much information from only running 2 spots. So normally they still have to make a sort of a unknown choice. But for you, the test can actually be your secret weapon. And that's because if a sponsor seems hesitant, throwing out a 1 to 2 month test can be a great way to convert a no into a yes. So here's how I recommend proposing a test. If they seem hesitant and they're about to end the call without a deal, propose a test yourself. Just say, hey, Frank, because everybody's name is Frank, I'm happy to offer a 2-month trial sponsorship. That way, we can identify whether it's a proper fit for my audience. This helps put you in the driver's seat. It's also really important that you say it's a proper fit for my audience. Don't make it like, hey, I want to make sure that, it's a really good thing for you. You want to, and you can say like, hey, I want to make sure it's also a good fit for you, but you want to make sure that you're being clear that, hey, this is a partnership. It's not just that you can come in and steamroll me. And that kind of leads me into this next thing, which is if you do a trial, make sure that you don't lower your CPM. Maybe you have to lower it a tiny bit, but really don't lower it much at all. And it's because it can be really easy to give away the farm for that first bite at a sponsorship, but this will really hurt you in the long run. I've worked with a lot of sponsors and I love them, but they do have a tendency to always ask for more. So if you don't establish your worth in the beginning, you can end up having to justify every little price increase down the road. And so once the call is over, if things go well, you've negotiated hard, you've gotten to that place and the sponsor is like, you know what, let's give it a try, let's do the test, or, even better, let's do a 6-month contract. It happens, man. Well, then once you've done that, they're going to send you over an IO or an insertion order. And this is the contract that you will sign that guarantees you'll place the advertisements and that the sponsor will pay for the advertisements, normally within 30 days of the advertisement going live. There is a lot to look out for in IOs, but it's a little bit too much to go over in this video, which is why you can watch it in this video. The 5 things to look out for within a sponsorship contract, which currently is available on the channel. So go watch it after this one. Now, once you've signed the contract, it is time to begin the creative process of turning sponsor copy into an engaging advertisement that actually resonates with your audience. If that's something you would like us to cover in a subsequent video, let us know in the comments. And if you liked this video, make sure you give it a like. We're a new channel, but we plan to grow fast, and we can only do that with viewers like you. So if you utilize this system and get a sponsor, let us know. We love to hear success stories. Now, go utilize this 30 days. Start now, day 1, and I'll see you in 30 days to hear how it's been going. Go get it.
Thank you for contacting podcast support.